Welcome back to the weekend with Anthony Opperman. Conference Championship weekend in the NFL. You got the Patriots and the Ravens on the AFC side, and, of course, the 49ers and the Giants on the NFC side. And with that matchup between the Niners and the Giants, it got me thinking of the 1991 NFC Championship game. And that's certainly a rematch played at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. And it was a phenomenal contest that the Giants ended up winning 15-13, due in large part to our next guest, former New York Giants kicker Matt Bahr. Matt, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
It's fun to be here.
Well, take me back to that game 21 years ago. What do you remember from that contest?
Well, first, it was truly one of the great games for all concerned. In terms of the Giants were the big underdogs, and San Francisco was looking to cap a three-peat. They had won 2 prior Super Bowls, and they were the favorites, and rightly so. And on the other side of the conference, Buffalo had been outscoring people, 35, 40 points a game, and they had just won, I think, prior to our game, like 55 to something. Just absolutely destroyed I think it was the Raiders. So regardless of what happened in that game, we knew we'd have our hands full on both weeks, and it would be a short Super Bowl week on top of it. Whoever won would fly right to Tampa. So we had played San Francisco earlier on a Monday night game in the season, and they beat us. It was in San Francisco, and it was I think it was like a 7-3 game. And both teams had just lost. Both teams were 10-0, and they had just lost a game or so before, so it was either like 11-1 or 12-1 going into that Monday night game. That in and of itself made it a big game. There was a lot going on, and my main memory of that game was every one of the Giants players seemed to come up with a big play at some point during the game. Everyone contributed to the win. Everyone contributed to preventing a loss to these guys, and we needed every single play. I think we tried a fake punt during the game that gained a lot of yards. There were so many big third down catches by Mark Ingram and Mark Bavaro that the field goals were just a result of the experience that we gained in the Monday night game prior. In that Monday night game, we were going for touchdowns, and we kept getting stalled. It would be 4th and 2, 4th and 1, and 9 times out of 10, you're right in doing that. But I guess it was a lesson learned, and this time, whenever we got down in there deep, they went for the field goal instead of trying to get the big score.
Being joined by former New York Giants kicker Matt Bahr. He was part of the 1991 NFC Championship game, which the Giants won over the San Francisco 49ers 15-13 at Candlestick. And Matt, I think a big part of that game, too, and going back and kind of looking at some of the specifics, was the fact that the 49ers had a chance to ice it. You guys were still trailing 13-12 after your 4th field goal, but you mentioned the big plays, and it was Eric Howard forcing a fumble of Roger Craig that gave the Giants the ball back with 3 minutes left in the ball game. Just talk about that moment.
Yeah, think of even a couple series or even one series earlier when it was a Leonard Marshall hit on Joe Montana that put him out of the game.
True.
And so, who was it? Young was
right.
The quarterback coming in, and that operation is something you practice all year, and now you have a new quarterback in there, kind of like we did with Hostetler, but he had been playing as a starter for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Anyway, yeah, the fumble, Howard knocking it out, and I think it was LT who was right there. If you look at the films, there was no other Giant close to that ball, but when Eric Howard knocked it out, it was right into LT's hands, and at that point, how the game had gone before, you kind of knew, well, we're going to have to try a field goal. And please understand, I'd much rather win by 3 touchdowns than have it come down to a game-winning kick. It's not. That's just silly. I'd rather win by 4 or 5 touchdowns and enjoy the game like everyone else would. But it wasn't to be, and so you're getting ready for it. Whenever they look like on second or third down, if they were stalling, you'd work out the distance from where the ball is to where you would spot it. So finally we get down there, and they are setting it up for a field goal. All right, and at that point, they send us out there. We go out, and the 49ers called a timeout, and that was about the very best thing they could have done. I know they're thinking it ices the kicker, but for me, it gives you a chance to take a deep breath, to make sure that your distance is exact. Steve Diassi, the center, if you're at the 7.5 yards from the back point of the ball, 9 times out of 10, the laces will be up when it gets to Hofstetler, the holder. That's a big part of the operation. That's one of the things that the guys are doing so well today. So they called the timeout. They had just resodded the middle of the field earlier in the week or a couple weeks earlier, and wanted to make sure that I wouldn't be planting, my plant foot would be on a seam. So the timeout just gave me a chance to put away all the little details, make sure the spot's good, make sure the distance is right, that you pick the right target behind the goalpost, all those good things. And then you can take a deep breath and say, all right, forget everything you're ever taught. Just hit the ball and follow through. Don't try to guide it. Don't try to aim it. Just take a good swipe at it. Because if you miss, you want to miss taking a swing at it, not trying to guide it through. And that's my main swing thought. When I look back and I see the films on it, they show all these guys kneeling in circles on the sideline, apparently praying. If I had seen that would have bothered me. But the timeout, but I don't look at the sideline typically, and I'm glad I didn't see it. That probably would have bothered me if I'd seen those guys doing those sort of things.
That's an awesome perspective. Joined by former New York Giants kicker Matt Bahr. He spent 17 seasons in the NFL with 6 teams, but certainly probably one of the highlights of his career, that 1990 and 91 postseason with the Giants, went on to win the Super Bowl that year. And Matt, I was reading a story in the Washington Post about that NFC Championship game in 91 between the Niners and the Giants, and Eric Howard was quoted in there as saying that the stadium, Candlestick Park, was just deafening because everybody in San Francisco thought the Niners were about to go back to another Super Bowl, continue that dynasty. Then the fumble happens. Then you make that field goal. And he said the silence at that point became deafening.
Yeah, I don't remember that. You're used to kind of stadium noise. You're used to the other team saying some of the meanest things ever during the timeout, talking about your family, your sexual preferences, anything to try to distract you. And then after the game, just everyone celebrating on the field. So I don't really remember the silence was deafening, but it makes sense. I mean, everyone from the 49ers front office to the guy in the top row thought the Niners were going to get their three-peat.
Joined by Matt Bahr, former kicker for the New York Giants. And Matt, as mentioned, you guys ended up going on to win the Super Bowl. Part of that was Scott Norwood missing a 47-yard field goal as time expired. I know you guys ended up winning a championship because of it, but as a fellow kicker, does a small part of you feel bad for Scott Norwood in that situation?
Oh, no question. I know I'm standing on the sideline with my arms folded before the kick, just wishing for anything else to happen, a bad snap, a bad hold, a fumble, an interception, just so that he wouldn't have to have the stigma of having to miss that kick. And because it's really a shame that those games are remembered for my kick in the Niners and Scotty's kick in the Super Bowl, and it's a disservice to what a truly great game it was by a lot of players. It was the same thing. And Buffalo in that game was scoring unbelievable amounts of points, and there were only 2 times, I think, during the season that Buffalo was held under 20 points, and that's a credit to Belichick and his staff, and credit to Parcells and his staff, and the strategy of trying to maintain control of the ball, these monster drives. There's a point at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half in that Super Bowl. We had the ball to end the half and to begin the half. Jim Kelly was off the field, I think, for over an hour and 10 minutes or 20 minutes because we had held on to the ball for so long, and they had the extended halftime. It was unbelievable. And those things when you reduce a game to 1 or 2 sentences, those things get lost. So many great runs and catches, again, tackles on both sides of the ball. And that's they say, what are you most proud of, that kick in San Francisco? And I say, not really. The thing I'm kind of most proud of is making 2 tackles in the Super Bowl the next week. And I believe that led those special teams with 2. Everyone else had 1. It sounds silly, but that's doing things that they don't expect you to do, being more a part of the team, and they are the things that I'm most tickled by.
Being joined by former New York Giants kicker Matt Bahr. Matt, you bring up Bill Parcells and his staff, and you look at some of the assistant coaches under Parcells and that staff. Bill Belichick being the defensive coordinator, Romeo Crennel on the defensive line, Al Groth, the linebackers, Tom Coughlin, the receivers coach. Obviously, Parcells' tree has expanded, and you've got some great coaches like Belichick and Coughlin still winning in the NFL. Just talk about what it was like to play under Bill Parcells, because it really sounds like some of these other guys, Belichick, that they are very detail-oriented, paying attention to all the little things.
Well, to be a coach in the NFL, you absolutely have to love the game. The amount of hours that they put in is ridiculous. And Parcells truly loved the game, and he had a group of people around him who truly loved the game. And you'd get them talking. I think I remember Parcells talking with Knight once. I think they were at the same school together, and Bill goes, "Oh yeah, I remember this one kid from Army, left tackle. He made a great block on this a 2-yard roundabout." He couldn't remember the kid's name, couldn't remember the game itself, but he remembered the specific play and what a fine block it was to get a 3-yard gain. That's the type of details. If he could find someone to help him win one game, he'd have that guy there to help him win one game, because bottom line, that's what he has to do. And it keeps everyone else focused on that. He was, along with Paterno, Chuck Noll, he's truly one of the great coaches I've been associated with in football. He knew what your best was, and he expected you to get better, and getting better during the week. So if you fumbled the ball during the week, he said, "I can't count on you on Sunday," and you wouldn't be in on Sunday. So a lot of coaches pay lip service to that. Parcells did it, and the players were better for it because they knew they had to perform in practice to get a chance to play on Sunday. And he told guys exactly what he wanted from them. Made no bones about it. And that also is why I think he's just a wonderful, wonderful coach.
Joined by former New York Giants kicker Matt Bahr here on the weekend with Anthony Opperman. Matt, before I let you go, if you don't mind, tell me who you think is going to take this NFC title game between the Giants and the 49ers.
I'll give the best answer I can give. I think if both teams play up to their potential, it should be one heck of a game. But, of course, I'm going to be rooting for the Giants.
You had Matt Bahr, former kicker with the New York Giants. Matt, thank you again so much for taking the time. Really appreciated the conversation.
All right. You have a great day.
Stay tuned. When we come back here on the weekend, we're going to change things up. Join Chris Donovan at the Richmond Fishing Expo out at Meadow Event Park. That's next here on the weekend with Anthony Opperman.
The Weekend with Anthony Opperman continues next on Sports Radio 910.